Herein lies the 2023 season for the Cleveland Guardians, going out with a bang. They catcher pitching the final 4 innings and starting waiver claims and carrying a catcher all year with the OPS below 400.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Listen, it's a weird one, right? Coming after the waiver claims, coming off the excitement, taking 2 out of 3 from the Rays, then tonight's game. It's a situation where I'm going to be the positivity. Justin was at the game, and he hates seeing hitters pitch, and it was like a perfect situation for.
I don't hate it. I don't like him throwing 4 innings. By the way, today's episode brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you hit up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDON. You'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's team terms of use for details. Operational over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. The Guardians definitely sleeping.
We're asleep
on Monday.
I forgot the day of the week. That is the problem there because we didn't record yesterday with the holiday, so I just forgot totally what the day of the week was. In this game,
I'm awake.
The Guardians today. It went poorly, but they took 2 out of 3 from the Rays, and you kind of expect, hey, that's going to go well. But the unfortunate thing is Texas is terrible right now. And I was talking with Justin, and he's right. The 2 teams played the same schedule, but it's just like facing Texas early versus facing Texas late. The fact that maybe, the Mets are still on their schedule where we face the Mets when they still had pitching. It's just the annoyance of, but again, they're 6 games back, and how much does that really balance out? If Texas could have just won that series, you feel a lot different 24 hours later. But instead, you're right back where you started. And again, I think the big difference that just talking with Justin here that I'm feeling is when they went out and added these guys, it gave me excitement because it's a slim window, and there was a slight chance that they could thread it, but I didn't expect them to. Whereas the changing of expectations, I think for some people out there brought them back in just enough to be like all the swear words after watching this game. Listen, I gave up. I didn't finish it.
No matter who's on your team, this game is still not good. You can't.
No, it's not a good game.
You went out and played great baseball against the Rays over the weekend. Yeah. Things fell apart in extra innings on Sunday. And then you go out and you absolutely lay an egg.
Just regular innings on Monday. Sunday, wasn't it? Because Saturday was the extra inning they won.
No, I mean, it just blew up. I'm just saying it blew up on Sunday.
Yeah.
But you went out and laid an egg on Monday after the fact.
Yes. It was great till 8 innings, and then everything kind of imploded. And then tonight was just an egg from the beginning. And one of our commenters left a great stat that hey, he was very excited we had a Giolito because in 3 starts this year, he'd given up 2 earned runs. He gave up all the rest of them in today's game, unfortunately. And it's, again, you can go back and listen to our Friday show where he expressed that Giolito was the least interesting of not interesting. That's the wrong word I keep using. He was the least impactful guy that they added, that he was going to be the one who, he's a step above Thor, but only a step. And
was he though? Because I don't think Noah Syndergaard pitched that badly. We joked about how many times
this year he has been better though. Over the course of this year, it's been really bad in the last month. He's the only pitcher since 1899 to give up 8 or more runs for 3 separate teams. So that's not good.
We joked about how much win probability that Emilio Pagan had been adding to the Guardians' wins total the last 2 years. Well, Lucas Giolito just went out and added a whole ton of win probability to the Twins season after that one. So.
Yeah, like I said, here's my whole thing, and maybe people call it a loser mentality or something like that. But I'm just having fun where I can have fun. When I look at this team, Bo Naylor, he got plunked, but he also had 2 walks. He's continuing to get on base, and we're seeing him there's a point this year where he was struggling to hit his weight, and he wasn't bringing anything. Defensively, there's still things to work on there. Obviously, I don't think he's ever going to be a plus defender. You're just hoping for average. But seeing him improve. Gabby Arias, not the best today, but over the weekend, he was hitting the ball as well as anyone. He continued what he had shown in the previous series, and seeing him get closer to what Beans our everydayer says. Like, if both Naylors can hit 20 home runs and Gabby and Jose in a year, this could be a fun team. Like there's things in there. So this team was so not fun to watch offensively for so long. Like it would get past the top of the order and I'd be like, okay, there's nothing to watch. And I say this as an Andres Jimenez fan because he has been awful. But now you bring back Naylor with those other guys, the young players getting opportunities and performing well. Like I still have fun, even if the pathway forward for the playoffs is non-existent. I'm still having fun seeing the development, seeing Tanner Bybee try to chase down, like, is he going to end up with the best WAR of a pitcher in the American League? Like, isn't he in that running to have,
maybe among rookies, but I don't think rookies. Overall.
I gotta look. I mean, seeing what some of these guys can chase down and do. That is kind of. I've been in single player appreciation mode for like 2 months. So even when they added these guys, it didn't change my expectations. Instead, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, well, let's see where it's going to go from here. Let's see what's going to happen. Gives them a chance to compete. It is a very small amount, but I'm weirdly just enjoying the ride.
Yep.
Bybee is tied
at what point are you enjoying the ride though? Because the expectation coming into the season was to win the division. We all picked them to win the division. We thought the new rules were going to benefit this team. And we're already having the autopsy talk when the season's not even over, and we'll have to have this.
I guess I kind of gave up. And I mean, after the All-Star break, like that first or second series, I kind of was like, I don't think this is going to work. There was just too many.
Right. So you weren't enjoying the ride at that point, were you?
No, but I'd already given up, and now it's the point. Right. So at what point? What I want them to see.
At what point did you wait? At what point did you wait? Okay.
Yeah, so I kind of gave up then, and then once we moved on from someone like Ahmed, who wasn't going to help this team in a year, who was going to be no part of it, getting to see like Bo Naylor actually make improving steps, like that's why I'm enjoying it now, because I'm more focused on next year. Honestly, I mean that's where I am. I guess maybe I waved the flag too early, but I don't know. This team was so dang inconsistent all year. If it wasn't, the bullpen, it's been a good bullpen, but it seems to falter the minute they're needed. Like statistically, hey, like top 5 in ERA, but it seems to whenever the game is close, someone seems to step on their own foot, and the hitting just being bottom all year, and the pitching dealing with so many injuries. I guess I'm just kind of gearing for next year, and I'm like looking at this team like, hey, maybe Cole Calhoun's veteran presence is going to help. Maybe, you have that. If Brendan had a good day today, can he put more together? I feel like every time I think Andres Jimenez is turning the corner, he's not. So you just kind of hope that this is a blip year and that he's an every other year type of guy like Roberto Alomar was, and he's going to come back next year and not necessarily probably was his high watermark last year, but like maybe he can come back and be better. And then, liking what I've seen with some of the young guys and hoping we can continue to build. But I guess that's why I am. Even with adding these guys, it's like, this is fun. They're adding them, but I don't know if they have a shot. It's a lot of games to make up in a little bit of time.
I'm not saying they shouldn't have done it, not add those guys, but again, I still think that when you're making the commitment to say, I mean, first of all, I don't think, and Tito even said it himself at the weekend, he didn't expect them to get all 3 guys. None of them did. They thought, maybe 1 or 2, one would get to them. They claimed all 3, and the expectation is you get 1, and maybe the Major League Baseball's waiver system is a little goofy. But when you make those waiver claims, you take the chance that, okay, if we do get these 3 guys, you have to know what the situation is going in. We have to add them to the 40-man roster, and we have to pay them. And adding Lopez and adding Moore, which I'm fine with, and even Giolito, because the idea was to have a guy who was better than Syndergaard, get some innings, maybe give you a shot, and maybe give you the chance to protect Bybee and Williams a little bit and Allen. But you're also taking away opportunities from guys doing that as well. I mean, there's no September call-up really for young guys. You're not bringing anybody up. You're not bringing Kyle Mansard up. You're not bringing George Valera up. You're not bringing Joey Cantillo up. You had to send Cody Morris back down, who shouldn't be in AAA.
But a lot of those bats weren't coming up anyways, I think is what we've seen. Like those 3 ads don't.
How do we know? Hitters. How do we know? Well, I mean, Jose Tena is up to play on the bench. You could have easily committed more time. You're committing more time in the outfield to Ramon Laureano, who you thought could help you win this year. And Laureano is still
the thing.
Laureano is still somebody you can.
Had the catch of the year over the weekend.
He did that catch. I tweeted. I said I don't think anybody else makes that catch besides him and Mookie Betts. I don't think Mookie Betts might be the only guy I think makes that catch. But you don't make the claim. You don't spend the money unless you are committed to something, because otherwise there's only two modes. Okay, there are teams that are tanking. Yes, there are teams like the Nationals who have torn it down, and who else has torn it down recently? I'm trying to think. The Reds did for a while. The Pirates are perpetual whatever. You're either tearing it down, you're building for next year, or you are trying to win this year. And coming off of a year where the Guardians won the division, and even if they got a little bit lucky doing it, beating up in the AL Central, and just a lot of things going right in terms of health and BABIP and all that kind of stuff. The bullpen being good. The bullpens aren't.
They still have the one sweep. Like, they couldn't even. I know the Rays are really good, so it'd have been kind of humorous if that was their second sweep. But they couldn't consistently. They were consistently inconsistent in all facets of the game.
That's
take
fine.
Advantage of the new rules. Couldn't seem to defense took a step back across the board. There were so many. Again, this felt like a team that was a little rudderless at the start, and a team that maybe needed leadership that wasn't there.
You were still playing for this year. You're still playing to win a division with this roster. You added Josh Bell. You added Mike Zunino because you thought they were going to bolster your roster. So you're in two modes. You're either in we're trying to win now, or we are trying to get better for next year. And Bo Naylor is up and getting reps. That's good. Gabriel Arias is they hung on to Med Rosario way too long for a team, like you said, was rudderless. Gabby Arias, for all his detractors, and I think he's played pretty well recently. There are definitely swing and miss issues there, and
yes.
You've got to find out about him. Now that you've finally moved on from Med Rosario, you've got to find out about him. He's got the same WRC plus right now as Med Rosario does, and he's obviously offering better defense. Med Rosario's got a 0.2 wins above replacement on FanGraphs. Gabby's got a 0.5 in not even half the games, less than half. I'm sorry, half the at bats anyway, or half the plate appearances. So that's fine, but
we should actually go jump the break, then come back and continue our discussion on this one as we're here on this episode today. The MLB playoffs are around the corner, which means the clock is ticking on your chance for 100 times payout your cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is right now, with studs like Aquino, Betts, and Ohtani, though Ohtani is not one going for the playoffs. The other two are, but still he's the most exciting guy in baseball. Pick more or less on stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks and you could win big. The fun thing about this is they have group chat, team chat functionality. And instead of having to sit there and pick all the categories, just pick the ones you like. Maybe there's an area you know more, an area you have some insight. It's your chance to win big. Use the promo code Locked On, and you'll get $100 match, up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's Terms of Use for details.
Guardians will try again on Tuesday. I can guarantee that Tanner Bybee, you could take the over on strikeouts for him. Whatever Lucas Giolito did on Monday, you can take the over on him for Tuesday on Sleeper, and you can listen to him try to do that and match Sonny Gray on your Sirius XM app on Tuesday at 6:10. Just search Guardians. So I think you're in two modes where the Guardians are right now. I think it's either the way this season went is you're either trying to win right now, which I don't think you claim those three guys unless you think you're trying to win. And let's be realistic too, that trying to win. I think
they thought they had a window. I think they thought they had a pathway. Didn't mean they thought it was 100% going to happen, but I think they thought there was a pathway to possible success. So let's go all in on it.
I think when you make those claims, you're trying to acknowledge you win, but we also have to acknowledge they're still trying to win in a terrible division. They would not. They were not okay. If the Guardians in the AL East or the AL West,
no, it's done.
They're dead and buried. They're not making those claims. You're not bothering to spend $3 million over the last month to make those claims because it doesn't matter. And it probably, I mean, I'm okay with going for it, but I think you have to acknowledge that was the goal. And they came into this Twin series as a must-win series. Now they could still win 2 out of 3. I don't think 2 out of 3 at this point is good enough because you're only going to get to 4 games, and every day that ticks off the schedule that you don't make up a game is a win for the Twins because you have limited time left in the season. You're still, either you're trying to develop to win next year or you're trying to win. There's only 2 pathways. You either try to win or you're trying to develop a team to win. And a team that played Ahmed Rosario way too long, a team that is putting Cole Calhoun as their 4th hitter, that a waiver claim like Ramon Laureano is their 5th hitter, had the best game tonight, and you're pitching a catcher for 4 innings.
I'd rather do that than waste a reliever. I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine. But again, I can't take you seriously if you're doing that. I can't take you seriously. That is not good roster building. It was a bad situation. It was a bad situation. But again, you're either trying to win or you're trying to develop. You can't do. The Guardians have to stop trying.
They've been essentially trying to do both since the entire time Tito's been here.
Yes, the whole thread the needle thing has been their whole mantra outside of 2016 and 2018. Thread the needle has been their whole mantra.
Yeah.
And it worked in that window, or it didn't work in that. It didn't matter for that window because they were clearly in that window. They were trying to win. You went out and signed Edwin. You went out and added Jay Bruce.
The division wasn't even trying for most of that run.
Correct. So they took advantage of that window then. But ever since then, they've been trying to thread the needle. And I mean, everything came together last year, but we don't know how sustainable that was. We're going to find out next year because you're going to go into the next season hoping that you have the pieces to do this again. I don't know how realistic is they are from the outside, but again, you spend $3 million. And if you, like I said, if you make a claim on those players, you have to live with the reality that you're going to get all 3. And for what it's worth, Moore and Lopez both looked good over the weekend. And we both thought those were going to be the guys that were the best. We didn't think Giolito was going to be this bad. And they played really well against the Rays. That series was really good up until Eli Morgan came into the game. Although, let's also acknowledge that Trevor Stephan came in and walked a guy with 2 outs. And everybody in heaven and hell in that stadium knew that when he walked that guy, he was stealing because Trevor Stephan and none of the Guardians bullpen could hold runners on, and he took off. No. Gave Bo Naylor no chance to throw him out.
Even if he had a chance.
There was no chance. There was no chance.
No, I know, but even if there was one, it's not like, that's the problem. It's all components of that are bad.
Well, that's how you lose 1-run games the way they have because you don't hold runners. It
ended up being more than 1 run because, as you said, Eli Morgan then completely imploded.
Well, when you walk a guy, it's an automatic double because you guarantee you can't hold the runner on, and everybody knows it. We all know it, and the Rays know it. But they played very well in that series. So, everybody said this is what has to happen. Everybody acknowledged you have to win. They had to basically go and win 20 of 28 to catch the Twins this month because they had an easy schedule. And I don't know. Again, you could still win 2 or 3 of this series and still, the Twins could still trip and you can have a chance. But if you are on September 4th, if you are in a game where you're playing a do or die series, and you're relying on the Texas Rangers bullpen to save you, you've already put yourself in that spot all season the way things have gone, right? You have already earned the position you're in. You have played to where your team belongs to be played. And again, if they were not in this division, they're not. And if they were not in this division, they were not making those waiver claims. That's why I think, like you said, they had a window to go for it and an opportunity because guys like that don't get waived because the Angels are a crap show of an organization. We'll talk about them here in a little bit too, but I just can't. They were inconsistent all year. I'm actually agree more with you that you kind of pulled the plug in July in terms of expectations after that Ranger series, right?
Yeah.
And this team did not. They kind of waited a little bit too long. Again, they stuck with the med too long. I don't really know how much you really developed. Yes, the rookie pitchers came up out of necessity and they did good, but they were up out of necessity. You had your 2 best starters gone. Zach Plesac pitched his way out of the rotation, out of the organization, essentially. Cal Quantrill was hurt. Those guys were all up by necessity. You weren't trying to do. The goal this year was not to have Bybee and Williams and Allen throw over 150 innings. They're going to get there, but that wasn't the goal coming into the year. Not by any means. The goal certainly wasn't to put Cole Calhoun and Ramon Laureano in your 3-4 spots on September 4th, or have Lucas Giolito pitch for you or Noah Syndergaard pitch for you. So how much developing did you really do? You carried a catcher, catcher with under a 4-year year. That's fine. I'm saying that
you got to give them credit for doing it. Still, I understand. It's a not byproduct. It was. It is, but they still did it. They still developed them. They still showed improvement.
But it wasn't the plan going in. The plan,
but sometimes plans. What's the saying? Like a battle plan lasts till the first arrow shot or first bullet. Like it wasn't the plan, but you can't say that it's gone terrible because it's gone well for them. That's actually worked out pretty well. It may be not ideal, but it's worked out. Bo Naylor, they didn't want to call him up when they wanted to call him up. They wanted to wait a little longer, but he's finally getting it together. So maybe calling him up. We both
agreed he wasn't ready at the time either.
Yes, but maybe, playing up here is gone well for his development. He has improved with every month. Mm-hmm. We talked about Gabby. It may not be like, I guess my whole, I know we got to run to break here in a second, but like, I feel like with this, I strongly disagree with you because I think that it may not have been the goal was to compete. And we saw that like when they realized they couldn't compete, they did fail. When they didn't, they made their trades and moved on.
Then why make these claims?
Because they thought because they thought that the Twins were going to completely run away with it. Instead, the Twins were not great. So they go out and they make these claims. They have these guys because this is Tito's last hurrah. They gave him a chance. They're giving him an opportunity to go get this division. And if it falls apart, it falls apart.
So they were trying to win again.
They're trying, but like, I mean, if you're watching and baseball, that gap was too big. Like, but hey, at the same time, they're not going to call up more than.
So why did you not?
They're not going to go out and add. Like, yes, right now the guys who are missing out are probably Cody Morris and James Karinchak.
Two things: you either are winning or you're trying to develop a team to win, and they've
never been that way. They have never been that way.
They have not, and maybe it's time to acknowledge that doesn't work. Maybe it's time to acknowledge that doesn't work.
That it's been the best, the fourth best run in franchise history. Like, don't go too negative here just because tonight was an ugly game. Like, it's worked up until this point. Like, saying it hasn't worked in a year where they're, like up until this point, we're talking about a team that.
When did it? But did it work? I mean, okay, outside of 2016 to 2018, and I'll even give them 2019 because 2019 they won 93 games and that was the most wins to not make the playoffs. Excluding in the wild card era, except their own 2005 team that didn't do it. Okay, so I'll even give them that. They would have made the playoffs in the 2 wild card era, or in this current format. They would have went to the playoffs. So I'll give you 16 through 19. 14 and 15 were weird years. 20 again, we're throwing 2020 out. I don't think anybody wants to really think. Yeah, 21 was a disaster. Last year was. We don't know whether or not that was a sustainable thing. We don't know. We don't have enough data to figure that out.
They won a playoff series. Again, and that's good. But like as a Twins fan, you've been dying for that. They haven't done that in 20 years. So like,
the Twins are still not going to win a playoff series this year.
No,
by the way.
But I just don't want to completely throw it all away or get jump into the negative one where it's like I think in this case. Do I always agree with their choices? No, I wanted to move on from a Met a year ago. Did I agree with some of the other things they've done? No, but like. I think we've seen positive growth and development. And like I said, the guys who are missing out right now on are Cody Morris, who does not look like the same guy he was a year ago. 99, who is not the same guy.
Still needs to face major league hitters.
Yeah, it would be improved. But those are, and then the fifth starter, it's like maybe we're missing out on Cantillo starting. Like, I don't think we are. I think with the situation that they're in, honestly, with this being Tito's last hurrah, they were never going to just pitch it in and be a partial rebuild this year. I think there was no way they were going to do that. But we should go to break, and then you can argue it. We can have our argument after the break. But let's take our next.
Guardians and Twins going at it again on Tuesday. And you can listen to all the action, Tanner Bybee and Sonny Gray at 6:10. Just search Guardians on your Sirius XM app.
So yeah, that's my point. Like, I think in a year where they lost Bieber and McKenzie threw 10 innings. We talked about at the start of the year that Cleveland's advantage over the Twins was their pitching staff. Cleveland's 1-2 was so much better than the Twins, but the Twins might have them beat at like 3-4-5. The problem for Cleveland was 1-2, 1 was not 1, and 2 did not pitch, and 3 was not 3. And they were just kind of behind the 8 ball from the beginning. And Josh Bell was Josh Bell. He is a guy who plays with his hair on fire for half the year and is a disappointment for the other half. And Zunino was a gamble where I'm glad they signed Mike Zunino, because they could have signed Christian Vasquez to a multiple year deal, and that would have been even worse.
He played second base, by the way, and late in the game as a defensive.
They could have gone and traded for, isn't Gabriel Moreno still struggling? They could have gone.
Yeah,
and traded,
I wouldn't necessarily be mad about giving up on. I mean,
I guess he's got a 3-point WAR. I was wrong. He's improved.
I would still take Bo Naylor over him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't want to give up. I don't want to go trade things when you got Bo sitting there. So like, I'm still, frankly, I'm happy for Zunino. If they couldn't get Murphy, I'm happy they got Zunino. Like, honestly, because it means they didn't block Bo and they didn't trade away a ton. They didn't trade one of those big. Imagine like Tanner Bybee. Here's my question to you: would you do the Murphy deal if you knew it would have cost you Bybee? Because I wouldn't right now.
Oh, absolutely not. No, even if Bybee had not been up this year, if Cal Quantrill, if all 3 starters had stayed healthy all year, and even if Zach Plesac didn't pitch his way out of the organization, I still would not have wanted to do that, make that trade. Like, it doesn't, if Bybee is spending most of the year in AAA this year, let's say he throws 80 innings, because remember his 40-man clock didn't start. You didn't need to get him on the 40-man until next year. Same with Gavin Williams. So I would have been okay with 50 innings from Bybee had things gone well for you at the major league level. Logan Allen was going to get a chance at some point this year anyway, and he could have been the guy to step in, a little bit later than he had to. But no, I still would not have. He might have been a guy I would have traded for Sean Murphy, because I really believed in Bybee, and I really believed in Williams. And at the time we thought Espino was healthy. At the time the Murphy trade, none of us knew Espino wasn't healthy. So
that's the thing. It's so hard to trade pitching, right? Like, it's like those 3.
Well, let's also acknowledge Oakland took a terrible deal for that. Okay, like whatever Oakland was doing, they were not being serious either.
And we talked about that was an awful deal at the time, and it just looks all the worse now. Esteury Ruiz has a negative WAR, even though he's been a really good defender, because he is such a bad, like, offensively he looks like a 4th outfielder, and they were so set on him. So again, it's Oakland has made 2 awful trades with Atlanta just to give away all-star talent and get very little to show for it. So way to go, Oakland.
I mean, so I don't know. I have a hard time really acknowledging it being serious. If Stephen Kwan can't be your best outfielder. Like, Stephen Kwan's a good player. He cannot be your best outfielder. The Miles Straw thing, I think, has gone on a little bit long at this point. Ramon Laureano is playing more. That's fine, but he is also not a guy that should be an everyday player either on a good team. But you're still playing him. And I'm not saying George Valera earned his chance. He was not on the field a lot this year. He's been hitting better lately. I think you'd like to get a look at Kyle Manzardo if you had the room, but you're not going to do, like, okay, the Guardians still have a small chance. They could come back, and Bybee and Williams could pitch well the next 2 days, and they could win the next 2 and still be 4 out. And it's still a very long shot. But if anything worse happens, then if you lose 2 out of 3, the rest of the season is not. It is over. Like, they're 1 foot in the grave right now. They've been 1 foot in the grave since July. But you start limiting their innings. But there are guys in AAA you could give a shot to. I don't know if Cantillo you really want to do that. His velocity was kind of down last start.
Yeah, he's probably near the shutdown point, if we're being honest, after missing 1.
Jonathan Rodriguez, do you want to get him 2 weeks of at bats just to get his feet wet? If you think Kyle Manzardo is going to be a big part of your lineup in 2024, it would make sense to get him a couple of weeks of getting his feet wet as well. So I guess see what happens the next 2 games. But the fact that you came into this game, I still think there were expectations coming into the series that if they played well in the series, they would still have, a punching chance to run this down. And they paid $3 million to do it, and they got a couple of guys that could help them. And maybe you get a head start on maybe re-signing them one of next year. I don't know. But again, I still think you're either building for next year to win, or you're winning this year. They waited too long on a team that was stuck in the mud. Like you said, they waited too long. And I don't know if we've seen enough about next year to really put a whole lot in motion to think that they've done enough to try to build towards next year outside of the pitching and Bo Naylor.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, we're going to have to sit back and also just see what happens at the top. Like, I go back to the quote by Tito when someone was like, hey, what about, are you sure Miles Straw is giving us the best chance to win? And like someone, I can't remember who asked him. And like Tito basically said, like, I don't think that's true. Like, said that Miles that's how they win. Like, he's one of their guys, like, just the way it was phrased. So I agree. Miles Straw is a backup, but right now, he's start as long as we have the manager in place. So, hopefully we get to next year, we get to someone who maybe doesn't have some of the ties, connections with some of the guys, which is good and bad, but it also means that person can come in and fresh start. And like, it's hard to find outfielders right now. That is something that I've spent the last 3 seasons trying to make fake trades for outfielders on this very show. And there's not a lot of them available, not a lot of teams with that depth, but we'll see. They have to go out there. They can't go out there being like, yep, Lariano, Calhoun, Straw, and Quan, that's our answer. And Valero will be up at some point, and Brennan will rebound. No, they need some definitive answers, and that's one of those things they definitely have to figure out. And the 40-man crunch isn't as real as it used to be. Eventually, we're gonna sit down and talk about that as well. We have a lot of great topics that are just kind of sideburnered because hey, it's a fun, interesting team right now. Maybe not fun, interesting, but
could be worse. They could be the Los Angeles Angels. The Angels, by the way, are not going to pay Max Stassi the final month of the season. He's on the restricted list because he's dealing with a family emergency. And by not paying him the final month, they get to get under the luxury tax. So when they lose Ohtani in free agency, they will move from the fourth. Well, his compensation pick will be going from the 4th round to the end of the 2nd round because they're not playing it. They're not going to pay a guy the final month of the season who was on leave for the family emergency. So bravo, Angels. Bravo.
They spend so much money, lose so many draft picks, make so many odd choices, and then Artie Moreno is only once paid the luxury tax.
At least the Oakland Athletics had the decency to let who's the manager of the Padres now that was there?
Was it Melvin?
Bob Melvin. They had the decency to let Bob Melvin out of his contract because they knew they didn't want to pay him and they knew they were going to stink this year, and they let him go instead of making him stay this year. The Angels are more pathetic than Oakland. Sorry, they are, especially given how much money they have. When you have that much money, you should be held to a higher. And I'm not saying Oakland doesn't have a ton of money either. Oakland is just as pathetic because their ownership's still pathetic. But when you are trying to brand yourself as the Los Angeles Angels, like you want to convince people you have LA money, even though you play in Anaheim, that's an embarrassment. That's an embarrassment. The Angels should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed to work there.
And speaking of things that are embarrassing or not, I noticed we are in the top 70 in podcasts this week for all of baseball. So I just want to take a second and thank you to all of our listeners. Let us know what you think about it. It was a little bit of a different show. We didn't talk about some of the stuff on the side. We kind of had our debate. You can let us know where you stand on which side of the debate in the comments below. And just, we want to thank all of our listeners, everydayers, people who are out there commenting, following along. We know it's not always fun, but we hope you're having fun listening to us. Thank you all for everything you do. And as always, go Guardians, go. Try not to give up 20 runs again.
Don't pitch David Fry.